Hi, basically I just thought I'd do a video, like, cause it's easier than writing a post out, I guess. I'm just, like, in a mood to talk. And I'm home alone right now, so it's like, I can say whatever I want to say and not be like, oh, my parents are gonna hear. No, but this is good stuff. Like, I wanted to talk about my mom today, just because, she's been trying super hard with me. Like, she's really the only person in my family that I'm talking to right now. And she's trying so hard, and, like, I love her for it. Like, I came out in February as trans, and she didn't know, like, anything about it. She, like, when I came out to them, they kind of just were waiting for it to go away, and like, oh, this is just a phase, this is just, I have a very masculine daughter, but like, she's really not my son, like, it's in her head kind of stuff. And then when I got sick and had a tumor and everything else, like, had to move home, like, I moved to North Carolina, which is not the most friendliest state. But once I started living with my mom and dad, my mom started seeing it more, like, okay, yeah, this is more legit, I guess. But I still hadn't been to therapy yet because I'd been taking care of my health. And then, this month, actually, like 2 weeks ago, I finally got to go to my gender therapy appointment. Like, I'd worked on gender issues on campus, but, like, my therapist still couldn't technically diagnose me because he's not a trans specialist. Like, you have to go to a trans specialist to get diagnosed officially, I think. It was, like, along those lines. Anyway, so when I came home, like, I explained to her what the therapist had told me, like, yeah, it's okay, this is a legitimate disorder. Like, one of the things she told me was, like, can you just go to therapy and learn to accept that you're a female. But when I explained to her that one of the reasons I had my tumor was because my body was trying to make more testosterone than estrogen, I naturally had higher levels of testosterone because my brain was saying, no, you are a boy, like, I'm trying to fix this for you. Like, I've always been this way. And so then she looked it up and she found out, like, it's more harmful to go on estrogen than for me to transition and, like, live as a man. So she, like, and I told her, one of the things, like, my therapist and I talked about was, I don't have any support out here. And she's like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, I help you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, because, like, nobody calls me Blake here, like, except for in class. You introduce me as your daughter all the time, and, like, I'm not your daughter anymore. Like, I'm not going to live this way anymore. Like, can you please, I've talked to you this before, like, can you please just try to call me Blake? And, like, I know you're going to slip up, and, like, I understand that, and I'm not going to bite your head off for it, but, like, you repeatedly not doing it hurts me. And I am getting really upset, and that's one of the reasons, like, I've been a butthead, because, like, I just don't feel, you know, respected and cared about, and, like, you're my mother, and I love you, and that's why it's, like, so hard to have this conversation with you, because, like, I know it's not easy. So, like, I talked to her, like, about how I was feeling and everything else, and she was like, okay, well, I will try. Which was a huge step, because in May, when I came home to visit, right before I got diagnosed with my tumor, I came home for a month, and I sat down with my parents, and I was like, okay, so, you know, what's the deal here? Because every time I was passing in public, like, people were like, I was happy, but my parents were not. And, like, I tried, you know, trying to see where they were at and everything else. And, like, I know my sisters call me their sister, brother, and that hurts. But, you know, it's hard to adjust, I guess. But now it's, like, I don't even talk to my older sister. We never really talked anyway, but all we do is fight, and just, I cut her out of my life recently, and I don't care. When I care, but I don't care. It's just, I needed to do it just because this isn't a joke, and I'm not going to back down on it. and she was saying things that were offensive and hurtful, and yeah, okay, sometimes I say things that are bad too, like I understand that, but just, as of right now, she's not in my life, and I don't even ever talk to her. The only time we ever talk is when she's home and I'm home, and that's like Christmas, and we end up fighting about everything, so I just don't talk to her anymore. But anyway, my mom and dad flat out told me, like, I am never calling you Blake, I am never seeing you as a guy, you are my daughter. And that's common. I've talked to, like, my therapist, I've talked to other trans guys of common parents' first reactions. And, like, my therapist explained it to me, like, I've had time to process it, and they haven't, so they've dealt with things that I've dealt with things that they haven't had time to deal with. And so I just need to be patient. So I was like, okay, well, and then I went home, and then I got sick, and then everything kind of changed, and I had to move back here. And I've talked about that before. But anyway, like, trying to give you a perspective on, like, time periods, because, like, in May, my mom and dad were just like, no. Like, we're not doing it. And I'm like, okay, be patient, be patient, be patient. It's so hard when you feel like, in your core, you are a man and people don't see it. Like, it's hard to deal with. But you just kind of have to deal with it anyway. Because, I mean, you have to give them time to adjust. So now, my mom usually calls me Blake. Sometimes she flips up, which is normal, but we kind of laugh about it. Unless my dad's around, then I just kind of am like, Because, like, okay, sometimes I will jokingly be like, oh, Nana, what's my name? Like, we have a song because, like, my roommates and I used to do that to each other when we flip up on names, because I lived with a couple trans people in my dorm last year, and, like, all of us were kind of, like, Chase and I were the newest, like, and Chase came out a couple months before I did, so when we'd flip up, we'd kind of just be like, oh, no, what's my name? You know, like, to be, like, less, like, hey, asshole, like, what's my name? Like, slip up happens, but, usually I'm just like, hey, you know, what's my name? Because if you don't correct them, they're never gonna get it, and, like, I've kind of learned that, especially, like, when Chase came out, because I'd call Chase his birth name, like, it takes a while to get used to, and then, you know, Chase would be like, hey, Chase now, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, sorry, like, no, I feel bad about it, but you just move on. So I've, like, been dealing with that, and, like, last night, my mom goes and gives me a hug, and, like, she knows I've been having a hard time, like, I'm the only trans person on my college campus, or whatever, but she, like, knows I'm having a hard time, and she's like, hey, you know, we're gonna get you in there, this could be better, like, not saying everything's gonna be perfect there, but, like, it is better there. I've done a lot of research, I've talked to people who live there, like, my friend Katie from high school, like, was born there, and it is a lot better, like, they just don't care as much as they do here, and anyway, she's like, you know, well, so last night I'm working on my homework, and she, like, I'm sitting at the table, and she, like, goes over and, like, does, like, the overhug, and, like, was just like, I love you, and I'm like, I know you do, and she was like, you're my favorite middle child, which usually she will say, like, oh, you're my favorite middle child, or to, like, my older sister and my younger sister, like, oh, you're my favorite older or younger child, and that's, like, what she normally does, but she hasn't ever done this before. She says, you're my favorite son, and that's not cheating because you're my only son, and, like, 2 weeks ago, she was just like, well, almost 3 weeks ago, was just like, you're my daughter. You need to get that in your head that you're my daughter. And I'm like, I can't do that. But okay. But then last night, she was like, you know, you're my only son and I love you. And it's not cheating either because you're my only son. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And then she was asking me what I was writing, like if she could read it or whatever. And I was like, well, I'm not writing anything for fun. Like, I'm just doing homework. But when I do write other stuff, like, yeah, if you want to read it, you can. And she likes to call me Blake, Blakey, which is funny because a lot of my ex-girlfriends call me Blakey, but I don't mind. Well, not every girl I've dated since I came out, which has been like 2. Call me Blakey, usually. But my mom calls me Blakey. She calls me Sweet Child of Mine, like, Bagel Boy is another one of her, like, go-to names now. Adele, like, when I do something bad, she used to yell Patricia Ann. But, like, the other time, or, like, the other day, like, I don't know, I don't remember what I did. But I think, like, I did something I wasn't supposed to be doing. I don't remember what it was. But my mom yells, Blake Ryan! And it was just, like, I'm trying so hard not to, like, be happy about it, because she just yelled Blake Ryan. That's my middle name. And, like, that's my preferred name. And she just, like, yelled it, like, Blake Ryan! And it was just like, okay, don't get happy, like, you're in trouble, you need to, like, be serious. And then I just, like, as soon as, like, she was, like, I apologize. I don't even remember what it was, but I said something. Oh, I was talking about how I don't want to go to Christmas with her parents because they're not cool about me. But, like, it was funny. Because I was just like, I don't want to go, grandma. And then she's like, you know, they're your grandparents. You're like, but I haven't seen them in, like, 2 years, I think. And they're not on Blake at all. Because, like, my mom or my grandma usually embroiders. Like, she'll give us, like, sweatshirts and, like, embroider our initials on them, or, like, towels, or, like, whatever. And she was like, my mom asked me, well, grandma wants to know what initials to use on your gift this year. And I was like, my initials are BRC, like, don't use PAC, that name's gone. And she was like, well, then grandma wants to know if it's okay if she can just embroider a lightning bolt, because she's kind of having a hard time with this. And I was like, at this point, that's when I said, I don't even want to go because I know it's going to be an issue and I just don't want to deal with it, so can I just stay home by myself? And she was like, that's when she was like, playground, you know, you need it. But, like, recently though, another reason, like, I cut my sister out, kind of, for as of right now, like, it's not even that big of, like, a drastic thing because we hardly ever talk anyway. And when we do, it's fighting. But I said I am not going to tolerate people refusing to use my name. I am not going to tolerate people refusing to see me as a guy. I'm not going to do it. I'm done. And she was like, all you do is, like, bitch about being trans, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, okay, but people misgendering me on purpose hurts. Like, I cannot explain how it hurts unless you are trans, you're just not gonna get it. I mean, I love allies. I will fight for my allies, like, especially the ones that, like, do it to be a decent human and not just to be like, oh, I'm such a ally, yay. Like, people who are, you know, sincere and genuine about it, like, I love you guys. But, like, there's things that I can't explain to you just how bad it hurts to have someone repeatedly denounce your identity. And it hurts. Like, I can't explain how bad it hurts. Like, unless you're trans, you're just not going to get it. Like, you can kind of understand it, but, like, you won't understand exactly how it feels. Like, that's how I feel anyway. But, she was just like, yeah, you know, like, I'm not going to, no. And it's just, like, she would say things like, I don't care if you're a guy, but then she won't use my name, she won't use my pronouns, and I was like, I'm done. I can tell the difference between flipping up and not doing it. Like, on purpose. Like, I can tell. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to lash at you because you occasionally call me Trish. Or, like, one of the reasons, like, I'm having a hard time with my dad is because, like, he refuses. And, like, yeah, he took me to my gender appointment, and there have been times where he gets better about it, but, like, he doesn't, and he refuses. And to me, it's the refusal that I cannot tolerate anymore, and I was just like, well, then don't even be in my life, because I'm going to transition, and I'm not letting anybody hold me back. So I've been saying up for myself a lot. But basically, my mom is being, like, my only real ally, like, in my house, and 3 weeks ago, it was just out of the question that she's going to do that. And so I just talked for, like, 15 minutes about my family, but there you go.